House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
you're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. The horse racing industry in New Jersey has been struggling for a couple of years now, but there's new legislation making its way through the state government to allow fixed odds betting at racetracks in the Garden State. We're going to be talking with a person who testified before the legislature on this very topic. William J Pascrell is an attorney, part of the Princeton Public Affairs Group, and a board member of the GVC Foundation US. Whenever we have important questions about the gambling business, Bill Pascrell is certainly the guy to talk to. When we come back, we're going to be talking horse racing in the Garden State. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. One of the greatest things about doing this show is that I get to talk to some of the smartest people in the gambling world, and it just so happens the smartest guy I know in the gambling world is from my home state. William J Pascrell is an attorney, part of the Princeton Public Affairs Group, and a board member of the GVC Foundation US. And just recently, Bill spoke in front of the New Jersey legislature about a subject that could greatly help the horse racing industry in New Jersey. It's always great to welcome back on Bill Pascrell. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, David. Great to talk to a fellow Jerseyan.
Yeah, no, it feels great. A little bit of home. So you mentioned New Jersey. Anyone who lives in New Jersey is familiar with the horse racing industry and its struggles over the last couple of years. And one thing sports betting was supposed to do was help the horse racing industry. But right now, for people around the country who aren't familiar with the subject, what is the state of the New Jersey horse racing industry right now?
David, it's really a pleasure to talk to you. I think your House of Cards broadcast is extraordinarily helpful and important throughout the country, let alone New Jersey. You know, David, in recent years, we've seen a diminution of what is called the pari-mutuel betting system for horse racing. And what I want all of the listeners to understand is sports betting, the 10-year case we had, David, to repeal PASPA, the Professional Amateur Sports Protection Act, which was passed, as you know, David, very well, in the early 90s, 1992. Senator Bill Bradley, the former New York Knickerbocker and Jersey U.S. Senator, brought this bill up in the federal Congress. It was passed and signed into law just before Bill Clinton became president. And it really gave every state in the nation 1 year to opt in. Only Vegas, Delaware, and Montana and Oregon executed that right. Jersey did not, and that's politics of over 30 years ago, 28 years ago. What's happened in the horse racing industry, David, up until 1930, during the waning days of the Depression, horse racing in America was fixed odds. So when you placed a bet on a horse, if it was 3-1, you locked in at that price. In the 1930s, there was a new offering produced, which was the pari-mutuel system, which I like to call a floating odds system. So you may place your bet a half hour before the race at, say, 7-1 and put $10 down and think you're going to get $70 if your horse comes in. The odds move right up until post time, and even a couple of seconds after post time. And that system, which has been in existence throughout the country for the last 90 years, is antiquated. It's not attractive to the younger punters, the 20, 30-year-olds and perhaps early 40s. They're more into a fixed odds bet like sports betting. Mm-hmm. But what we've seen in the pari-mutuel system, David, the last 5 to 8 years is year over year, the tote system, the pari-mutuel system has been reducing 2 to 3% a year. This year it's stabilized because for a great part of this year, David, we only had horse racing. We didn't have any sports betting content. Yeah. So that helped kick a lot of the sports bettors into the pari-mutuel system. And so we believe that this is extraordinarily helpful because we have some real-time empirical data from New Zealand, from Australia, and from England and other jurisdictions in Europe, where the fixed odds system stabilizes the pari-mutuel system and then helps grow a new offering with fixed odds.
You know, as you mentioned, New Jersey had fixed odds before 1930. What was the reason for the change? I mean, did people in the 1930s think pari-mutuel betting was the wave of the future? I mean, what were they seeing in the 1930s that we're not seeing right now?
That's a great question. I think this was a new way for pooled betting to introduce a new offering to the horse betting industry. It was successful for many years, and it also enabled all of the stakeholders to benefit. But those systems have not kept up with the times. Those systems have, as I said, become extraordinarily antiquated. And so what the fixed odds system does is it enables in the time of, the internet and high tech, it enables the younger folks to be able to log their bet in and know that it's locked. And so that the system, the pari-mutuel system, which is something that older folks enjoy, the 60-plus-year-olds, because they've been doing it for decades, and they're comfortable with that system. But the fixed odds betting system is a lot easier to understand, and it also enables folks to come in, the younger folks to come in, to feel like, hey, if I'm going to bet on the Giants versus the Eagles, and lock in at 3 points, for the Giants, I know that line may move, but at least I'm locked in.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the House of Cards?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with William J Pascrell from the Princeton Public Affairs Group and the GVC Foundation US. Sorry about that. Radio has to do its business, Why don't you continue what you were saying before the break?
And so I don't want to suggest to anybody that's listening in, your extraordinary network, I don't want them to think that this is going to happen easily, because what's important about getting this put in place, not just in New Jersey, but we're talking about doing this throughout the country, so we can not only have in-state bets, but interstate bets and international bets, is a company like BetMakers, who I've been representing for the last 16 months. I met the CEO, Todd Buckingham, in Barcelona. He flew out from Australia just to meet me. I was speaking at the World Gaming Executive Summit last July. Family wasn't too happy because I was in Barcelona, which is not a bad place to be, during 4th of July, speaking about U.S. sports betting. And little did I know I'd meet Todd Buckingham, who had an extraordinary impact on my life, because this is exciting. I've been privileged to be involved with the repeal of PASPA and be the quarterback for that. It was a successful campaign, although it took 10 years, David. Yep. And I was also involved with introducing online gaming to the U.S. Back in 2013, where Governor Christie, Senate President Sweeney, and the rest of the legislature really saw the benefits of bringing online in, and thank God they did, because if it wasn't for online gaming during COVID, the casinos would all be shuttered. not because the state shuttered them, but because nobody's going to them. But what's important about fixed odds is we believe strongly, and there needs to be a lot of education and advocacy on this, that because of the data that we know from the UK, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, this will not at all hurt the parimutuel system. What it will do is stabilize it and stop it from reducing, and it will explode over time through education and marketing, a new fixed odds system. Let me just give you these numbers briefly, and everybody that's listening in will get it. There are 330 million Americans, and we do, give or take, about 10 billion a year. We might actually do 11 billion this year because of COVID for the parimutuel system. Australia, which only has 24.6 million citizens, does 3 times that number, $30 billion a year in horse race bets. 70% of that is fixed odds. The balance is the parimutuel system. The parimutuel system has not been cannibalized. A lot of casual observers are concerned about that, and we want to assure them that that has not happened. We think that this could explode the horse racing industry in a positive way and also help subsidize the purses, which is important to attracting punters, even the whales or the casual punter. And what it will also do is benefit the jockeys, the veterinarians, the breeders, the owners, and the horsemen. And so we think this is a great way to bring new bets to the system, and it's a younger punter. And finally, David, and thank you for letting me chat here, I want you to your listeners to understand that the fixed odds system will also do a couple of other things. Right now, if we were not to do any new offering for horse racing will be dead on the vine within the next 10 years. So we are confident that the fixed odds system will save the horse racing industry and help grow it, stabilize it at first and then grow it. And it's like the lottery, David, which you understand clearly. If we don't bring online lottery throughout the country, which we've done in New Jersey and Minnesota and New York,
sure,
and several other jurisdictions, those players are going to age out. The 20, 30-year-olds are not going to go to your local 7-Eleven or bodega to buy a lottery ticket. They want to buy it on an app on their phone.
Yeah.
Similarly to what the fixed odds system will represent, a new offering to help allay the concerns of the horse racing industry that their customers are aging out.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but in some specific races in New Jersey, fixed odds betting was allowed. I mean, where were they and how did they work in those specific races?
Yeah, so back in 2018 and 2019, the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement and the Racing Commission allowed fixed odds bets on a limited race. It was only for the Hamiltonian and for the Haskell, and there were only a handful of bets that were lodged. And the reason for that is if you're only talking about one race, it's hard to educate the industry and attract people to it. So there were about $30,000 placed in 2018 and 2019 on those races. But we've tried to do this in a very different way. BetMakers is a publicly traded risk management company that doesn't take bets. They manage the risk and the odds. And so what happened is that we went to the regulators and we asked permission to allow for fixed odds betting on all horse races, intrastate, interstate, and internationally. And what happened is there was a concern by the Attorney General of New Jersey that under the current regulatory regime, the fixed odds horse race bet would have to be viewed, legally interpreted, as a sports bet. And that is not helpful to the industry. Sports bets are taxed at a much higher rate. And so as we've gone down this road, we've decided to do it in the proper way, not in a rushed way. So we've introduced legislation Senate Bill 3090, sponsored by Senator Paul Sarlo, the chairman of the Budget Committee, and Senator Vin Gopal. Senator Vin Gopal represents Monmouth and Freehold, those districts, and Senator Sarlo represents the Meadowlands tract. And they dropped the bill on October 26th. On November 9th, I testified before the Senate Budget Committee. I was allowed to go beyond the 3-minute rule, and, you know, I'm never short-winded anyway. They allowed me to testify for 15 minutes, and a couple of extraordinary things happened, David. Mm-hmm. The entire committee, both Republicans and Democrats, voted unanimously, 11-0, to move the bill out of committee.
That's great.
And also, several members of that committee signed on to the bill as sponsors because they saw, after my testimony, the value of what was being proposed here. And in addition to that, there were a couple of opponents to the bill, and they withdrew their opposition after my testimony. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but I'm really proud of what we're offering here. And what the bill does is it declares the fixed odds bet as a horse bet, okay? And it also requires, which we were very strongly supportive of, we drafted the bill, Dennis Drazen from Monmouth, myself, and the Office of Legislative Services, with the support of the governor of New Jersey, who's committed to helping sign this bill, and the attorney general and the legislature. What's required here is if you want to take a fixed odds bet on a race at Monmouth Park, you need the permission of the track and the horsemen and the racing commission. All have to sign off on it. And so there's a lot of protections in place. Nothing can happen without that. And for those who are not interested in getting into fixed odds, they don't have to. But I will assure you one thing, David. Once we launch this, we get it through both houses of the legislature, and we get it to the governor's desk. When the Meadowlands and Monmouth open up their seasons next year, every sports betting operator in the country that has a license in New Jersey will want to do fixed odds betting. It's extraordinarily beneficial to them. Their percentage of takeout for the sports betting operators is not as great as the pari-mutuel system, but you're talking about 2% on a larger volume as opposed to 10% on a smaller volume. So there's much more benefit here, and so we're very confident. And then in closing on this comment here, I want you to also understand, David. Not only are we working in New Jersey, and I can speak to each of these states, but we're working in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Oklahoma, Michigan, Colorado, and North Carolina. We've talked to the governors of those states, legislators and regulators in those states. Some of those states believe they can do fixed odds with a regulatory tweak. Others believe that they might need legislation. And we're working in collaboration with all those groups.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of November 30th, 2020. With the coronavirus surging throughout the state, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak imposed new restrictions on casinos. According to the new rules, gaming establishments will be limited to 25% capacity, and resort showroom attendance will be dropped from a maximum of 250 people to 50. These new restrictions will be in place for 3 weeks and also extend to bars and restaurants in the state. Pennsylvania has released its gaming numbers for October, and they are huge. The Keystone State's online casinos reported almost $60 million in revenue for the month, with $43 million from online slots and $17 million from online table games. The state's one and only online poker site, PokerStars, reported $2.4 million in revenue. Pennsylvania's sportsbooks also set records for handle and revenue for the month. And finally, a holiday tradition has returned to Las Vegas. The rooftop ice rink at the Cosmopolitan on the Vegas Strip opened on November 18th for the holidays. The rink will be open daily, and due to COVID, crowd size will be limited. Skaters are also required to wear masks. For hotel guests and military, the price to skate all day is $20, and for non-hotel guests, it's $30. Only in Vegas can you ice skate in the desert. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way. I'll give you 3-1 odds. No. 5-1. No. 10-1. You're on.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with William J Pascrell from the Princeton Public Affairs Group and the GVC Foundation US. You know, you mentioned them before, and they might not be well known in the U.S., but bet makers, I mean, I read a lot about them, and they are just doing amazing things with regard to this subject. Can you tell us a little more about bet makers? Because with this subject, I know they're going to be in the news a lot around the country.
Well, yeah, if I may, I met Todd Buckingham, like I said earlier in the podcast, July 4th of last year at the World Gaming Executive Summit in Barcelona. And Todd then flew to the U.S. to meet me and retained me September 1 of last year. And I've been representing them as their outside counsel and lobbyist and advocate since then. That company, whose stock was at 3 when they retained me, the stock mushroomed up to 18 over the course of a couple of months.
Wow.
And then last year, when I was at the ICE conference with Todd, ICE is the International Casino Expo, which I go to annually for the last 13 years in London, we announced on February 4th of this year, David, 5 p.m. New York time, 10 p.m. UK time, 10 a.m. February 5th Australia time, the contractual partnership between Monmouth Park Raceway, the Horsemen, the Thoroughbred Horsemen, and bet makers. And in the course of 3 hours, their stock went from 18 to 34. And so, you know, that's the excitement. And they're traded on the Australian NASDAQ. Mm-hmm. BetMakers is a data analytics managed risk trading services company. They don't take bets, they manage the risk. And they help sort it out in real time. Powerful company. They have zero competition. Nobody else can do and produce and have the experience and bandwidth of BetMakers in the horse racing industry. When they put out a press release, when S3090 and the Assembly counterpart was introduced on October 6th, the stock shot up again. Just this past week, David, and I know you know this, but I'd like your viewers, your audience to know it. Just this past week, on Wednesday, the New Jersey Racing Commission introduced a pilot program for fixed odds. It's a limited program, and it's just being done to show that New Jersey's engaged and interested in this while we're moving the legislation. And what that pilot program did was on January 1 of 2021, any Tier 1 Grade A races, there's about 82 of them in the country, will be allowed to have fixed odds bets placed on them. That's not extraordinarily helpful because in the winter months, as you know, there's very few races, Santa Anita, Tampa, Jamaica, etc. But what it does do is it shows the commitment of the state of New Jersey and the Racing Commission. And when that was announced Wednesday afternoon, the BetMaker stock shot up again to 54.
Wow.
So, this is not Bill Pascrell's opinion. This is me parroting out an objective viewpoint, which is a market, right? The NASDAQ market. That's not just a casual thing. Mm-hmm. So this company has sent over in February of this year, actually on Valentine's Day, a gentleman by the name of Dallas Baker, who's the Senior VP of International Operations for Australia. Dallas has become almost a part of my family because I got him an apartment in Clifton, New Jersey. He's been working out of since. If he were to have gone back home during COVID, he wouldn't be allowed to come back into the country. Okay. So we've sorted out his immigration documents. He's becoming a resident alien of the U.S., and they just hired on September 1, as a show of commitment, their first U.S. employee, a U.S. citizen who's become the general counsel in-house for the U.S. They raised $35 million over the summer just for the U.S. operation. Wow. We're going to be opening up an office for them in the near future, as well as hiring a couple dozen new U.S. citizens, Jersey residents, to help with the management of BetMakers US.
Well, let me ask you something. When this legislation passes, will the horse racing industry see benefits immediately, or should we expect it to take some time to have a lasting effect on the industry?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you two answers to that.
Okay.
I believe it's going to have an extraordinary impact immediately. However, most experts in the horse racing industry, who are friends and allies, believe it's going to take time. And the reason they think that is it needs to be advertised, marketed. The apps need to be set up. Folks like FanDuel, DraftKings, GVC, PointsBet, Rush Street, Evolution, Kindred, all of those companies will have to toggle their offering and start to market to get punters educated on what this means. So it could take a little bit of a granular grind, but we believe in the relative near future, in a year or two, this will be a very dominant offering that the horsemen and the tracks will be extraordinarily grateful for. And what it's going to take time to do is to onboard these sports betting companies with the managed trading services of BetMakers and the tracks and the horsemen to kind of, all those conversations are going on now. Those contracts are being signed. And so I believe by the end, this time next year, if I'm lucky enough to talk to you again at that time, I believe we will all be thrilled at what fixed odds has meant, because I think it will immediately stabilize the total self-cannibalization and will also provide a whole new bandwidth of bets that we're not enjoying right now.
Now, I know Dennis Drazen, who's CEO of Derby Development, who's the operator of Monmouth Park. He feels that fixed odds betting is going to improve the handle and also will be appealing to a lot more potential bettors. Now, is that the feeling across the board? Is there some operators that aren't sure about it? I mean, what is the general feeling of the operators in New Jersey about fixed odds betting?
Every operator that we have talked to, and even some we're going to be talking to in the immediate future, understands that this is a valuable offering. David, it's been very scary what's happened in the last month or so since Election Day in the U.S., where COVID has spiked. We just saw a very daunting statistic from yesterday. 178,000 U.S. citizens tested positive in one day, and 1,800 died in one day from COVID. Mm-hmm. Now, we have the Pfizer and the Mondelez announcements about vaccines. We also have Johnson & Johnson, Merck Medco, and others that are talking about vaccines. But those vaccines onboarded hopefully in December, where the elderly and those with comorbidities will be first in line. You can't administer 330 million vaccines in the course of a couple months. Yeah. It's going to take the greater part of a year. What I am hoping, because I'm in the business, is that, we don't start shutting down sports events. We just had the Masters last weekend, which was a little odd to watch, right. Fun to watch, but no audience. But as long as the sports betting industry shuts down again because of COVID, and your guess is as good as mine on that, then I think those sports betting companies will be in a stable position and will be onboarding fixed odds. What could accelerate that is if sports starts to close, then they're going to need other opportunities because, of course, horse racing is a little different. Unless a jockey tests positive, the field can go. The tracks weren't shut down for that long, and they have a much greater opportunity to race with COVID spiking. So, I feel very good about the entire sports betting industry's interest. We're on the phone constantly, morning, noon, and night with those companies, whether they're U.S.-based like FanDuel and DraftKings, or whether they're, European-based like GVC or Australian-based like PointsBet. They're all keen and excited about this offering of fixed odds.
Well, let me ask you about the marketing of it. I mean, anyone who goes to a horse track will notice it's an older crowd. And I know from talking to 4 people who own casinos and run casinos, their goal for the last 2 years before the pandemic hit was to get the millennials back onto the property and attract younger people to the properties. Do you think fixed odds betting will attract younger crowd to the racetrack?
I'll tell you why. Yes, I do. When I lobbied online gaming, David, 8-9 years ago, when Governor Christie first came into office, I had a hell of a time because I lost, and my partners weren't happy about it, but they believed and trusted me. I used to represent the entire Atlantic City brick-and-mortar casino industry as well as the Atlantic City Casino Association. And they were fearful of online. They thought it was going to cannibalize their casino industry. Lo and behold, I lost them all, but I picked up just about every online gaming company in the world who wanted to get into the market and help fund our campaign. Now all those brick-and-mortar casinos are clients again of mine because they know that were it not for the online gaming industry, they would be sucking wind. Mm-hmm. New Jersey used to do $5 billion a year just in casinos prior to online in GGR, gross gaming revenue. And that number has dropped. It dropped below $2 billion a few years ago, and now it's starting to creep back up. What they now realize, David, and I get so excited about this conversation, and I really appreciate the privilege to talk with you. What they're excited about, and they understand now, is that by offering online gaming, it's a way to keep the customer once he or she leaves the property. And it's also a way to market to them about a concert or an event or a restaurant offering or some type of other amenity because they're JV'd, they're skinned with the online offering. So the online complements the offline and vice versa because they're all getting revenue out of it. And so if you're going to have a hotel offering, you'd have to go on, a major TV network or do mail or some type of robust social media. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just go directly to the online customer and say, that room that was $400 a couple of weeks ago is now $200. Why don't you come in and stay 2 nights? We'll give you the third night for free. And, come to the restaurant or come to this concert. And so they're all excited about the continued utilization of online to help bolster the offline.
Stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Now that we're home more than ever, we need to feel safe. Call it a sign of the times or the world we now live in. What do you want to keep safe? The people in your life? What do you want to protect? Your possessions, the things that belong to you, the things that you've worked hard for. Wouldn't it be nice to have tested, trusted 24/7 protection? Peace of mind, real protection that's always there for you and your whole family? Well, now you can with one of our state-of-the-art home security systems. Everyone thinks their home is safe until the unexpected happens. Help protect your home and loved ones today with the affordable next generation in home security. To help keep your family and property safe, call 1-800-520-4068 now. Representatives are standing by to assist you. That's 1-800-250-4068. 1-800-520-4068.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Well, don't take it too hard. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, too.
Stupid? What do you mean, stupid?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with William J Pascrell from the Princeton Public Affairs Group and the GVC Foundation US. Now, do you think that the fact that New Jersey already has sports betting helps this legislation gets passed a lot more quickly? Because, look, I mean, people in New Jersey are betting on sports. They're using fixed odds already. People are familiar with it. I think the legislators know that, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. The integrity of the sport is fine with fixed odds betting. Do you think the fact that we're already using fixed odds in sports betting moves this legislation along more quickly?
Yeah. A couple of things. Yes, that's for sure. The fact that the state already not only has sports betting, but has online sports betting and online gaming certainly helps, because the fixed odds offering will both be on track and through a mobile app. So yes, but we have talked to a couple of states that don't yet have either sports betting or online gaming, and they feel this is a nice way to maybe do online horse racing with fixed odds. And if that succeeds, maybe they'll then trampoline into sports betting. So I think it's got a balanced bilateral benefit. And, you know, some of the states we're talking to, like Colorado, already have sports betting, and they see the value of this. Although they only have a track or two there, they're very interested in this as further content. And let me just say this, David, because you'll appreciate this most, and your Pennsylvania listeners will as well, and perhaps South Jersey. Governor Wolf last year in November did us a very huge favor, even though that was not his intent at the time. He pulled, you'll probably remember this. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you had a show on it. He pulled $220 million out of the purse of horse racing, and he did it for a very valid reason, although it was a money grab to the general treasury. He said to the horse racing industry, you guys are dying on the vine, guys and gals, and you're not innovative, you're antiquated, and you haven't done anything. The system year over year is self-cannibalizing at 2 to 3%. You know, in another 10 years, you'll be out of business. So he drew that back. We met with Governor Wolf and his team, and he got it right away. He said, Bill, if you can get the Pennsylvania horse racing industry to embrace fixed odds, to me, that's innovative, that's robust, it's creative, And I would be willing, if we were to do this and they embraced it, I'd be willing to put that purse subsidy back. So, this has got all sorts of benefits. I will tell you, David, that it's not an easy operation from a lobbying point of view, because a lot of people get nervous about change, particularly the elderly, right? And I say that out of respect. The horsemen around the country that are, tend to be elderly, 60s, 70s, and 80s, they tend to get nervous, like, I want to keep what I have, and they put their arms around it. What we're trying to explain to them is this is a way for you to benefit. It's not going to hurt you, because you're going to have so much more purse subsidy, which gets distributed throughout all those stakeholders I mentioned. And that's a good thing. And they're getting their heads around it, and they're understanding. I think once Jersey launches, everybody else will jump in. And some other states, like I've mentioned to you, Ohio, Michigan, Oklahoma, Colorado, Illinois, and North Carolina are already engaged in this conversation.
Tell me about the timeline for fixed odds in New Jersey. When do you think the bill would become law, and when do you think it'll be implemented in the state?
We're hoping that by Q2, the bill will be signed, and that by the end of Q2, when Monmouth opens and Meadowlands opens in early May, that's when the first fixed odds bet will be taken, outside of maybe this pilot program. And the Governor Murphy will take that first bet like he did on sports betting.
Bill, we're running out of time, but do you have a website that people can look at to see what you're up to and what you're doing, and to follow the legislation throughout the government of New Jersey?
Yes. I would encourage people to go to our website, which is www.ppag.com. That's Peter, Paul, Apple, Gregory. They can also follow me on Twitter, Bill Pascrell III, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And all of those channels will have constant updates. And of course, those that are even more interested can go on BetMaker's website.
William J Pascrell from the Princeton Public Affairs Group. As always, thanks for coming on and explaining some of the things going on in the gambling world. Bill, it's always great to hear from you and your perspective on things. Please come back on soon and keep us updated.
God bless you, David. God bless House of Cards. And I really look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And that's all the time we have this week for House of Cards. See you next week.
Drag his forward chain across the desert.